Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. I'm Billy Embody. We've got a jam-packed show for you guys reviewing all sorts of transfer portal commitments for the Mustangs. We'll break them all down since we last broke down the transfer portal world and where it stands on this edition of the On the Pony Express podcast, which starts right now.
This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody. Billy Embody. 1, 2, 3, let me go.
That is right, everyone. It is the On the Pony Express podcast presented by our friends at StatusJet. Go to statusjet.com. Reach out to David Henry and his team for more information on where they can take you this basketball season and spring break approaching as well. Big time of travel for that. So hope you guys are having a great week. It is hump day. SMU basketball tonight plays Virginia Tech, 8 p.m. Central Time on ESPNU. And a late one, the Mustangs looking to bounce back from their road trip, but transfer portal has to take precedence. Sorry. They have to take dibs on this podcast as we've just got so much to talk about. And what we're going to do on this pod, we're going to break down every single commit that SMU's gotten since our last pod. And there's quite the list of them. We'll come back around later this week with a what's it mean. We'll talk about a roster reset. We'll do all of that. We'll also talk SMU basketball Thursday. We're back in the groove of things for you guys on the Pony Express podcast. So appreciate you guys being with us. We'll also have our season in review episode for the football team. It'll drop Thursday morning, bright and early, with Hayden Howerton and myself breaking things down. Hope you guys enjoyed Hayden's interview with former offensive lineman Cam Irvin on the feed. And if you are listening to this right now and you're on Apple or Spotify, please leave us a review. Please make sure you're following and rating and reviewing us. But you might be missing out on the Pony Express taking on Torrey Pines, which we dropped in video form only because there's just not enough football talk to make it a podcast. It is a vlog, so to speak. So go check that out. There is probably about 15, 17 minutes of football talk out of the 28 minutes for the actual vlog. So we're hoping to do some more things like that where we play golf and chat about the Mustangs or chat about this or chat about that. But we will probably next time have it just a little bit better at maybe having that football talk early, sticking with it, kind of bouncing in and out of golf throughout it. So that was a fun, really first time doing that, where it's not just Hayden and I filming a bunch of different clips and then putting it together. We did that right before this season, I think. We played a little golf. So maybe it was even before last season, which is crazy. But we're looking forward to bringing more vlogs like that to you guys, kind of our adventures as a pod. So hope you enjoyed that. And we appreciate all of you guys who have joined on theponyexpress.com. Subscribe for 50% off right now during this transfer portal window. Join us. If you're watching on YouTube, scan the QR code in the corner of the screen. We'll have all of that for you. We've got a great deal, 50% off there. And of course, we do want to lead off with a position of need that was filled on Friday, I believe it was, as SMU picked up another commitment. It was Thursday of last week. So we have a lot to get to on the pod. So we'll jump right in now with the first commitment we want to talk about for the Mustangs. SMU landed Texas A&M tight end transfer Theo Mellon Orstrom. Yes, that is exactly how you say it. Theo Mellon Orstrom out of the transfer portal for his final year of eligibility. He comes over from Texas A&M, where he spent his entire career with the Aggies, a Swede coming over to play for the Mustangs. The 6'6", 257-pounder picked SMU over Houston, Kansas State, and Auburn, and he did play in 38 games over the past 3 seasons with the Aggies. In 2025, he caught 19 passes for 168 yards and a touchdown. He had his career high in receiving yards in 2024 with 184 and 2 touchdowns on 10 catches. He is a big body. He's an experienced body, and he is going to be somebody that you'd expect to start right away for SMU in 2026. We know that he won't be alone, and we'll talk about the other addition in the tight end room in just a minute as well. But Theo Mellon Orstrom brings an immediate legitimacy to this tight end room that is missing now. RJ Maryland, Matthew Hibner, Stone Eby, Adam Moore entered the transfer portal. They needed a veteran. They went out and got one in Theo Mellon Orstrom, and one that makes a ton of sense here. SMU has done a good job of getting some of these international prospects on campus throughout their high school days. And Theo might have even visited when he was a recruit coming out of high school. And now he ends up at SMU for his final year of eligibility. I mean, they call him Thor. He looks the part. I mean, he really does. And there's a lot of people excited in the SMU building about this one. They kind of snuck him in quietly. He was one that we kind of found out about later on in the week before he ended up committing and signing with the Mustangs. But he had visited early on last week and then ends up picking SMU. So one that made a lot of sense with SMU needing that athletic, physical, imposing figure at the tight end room. They get that in Theo Mellon Orstrom. Speaking of needs, with Sam Keltner hitting the transfer portal, SMU has found its kicker for 2026. SMU landed New Hampshire transfer kicker Nick Reed in the portal. He's got 2 years of eligibility remaining, and he brings an FCS All-American resume to the Hilltop, and 6 of 8 from 50 yards out or more last season. So SMU does hit that, requirement of having somebody that can be a little bit of a weapon. And coming from New Hampshire, probably is kicked in some adverse weather and things like that. And so will be experienced enough, with his experience at Buffalo and now New Hampshire to bring it to SMU, and you get a little bit better weather here on the Hilltop for the most part. This could be a really good marriage, as SMU lost a really high upside kicker in Sam Keltner, who was young. Well, they went into the transfer portal and got Nick Reed, who was number 1 in FCS, number 2 overall between FCS and FBS in field goals per game, almost 2 a game. And he was 14th in both total points scored, 105, and in scoring with 8.1 points per game. He was an All-American across the board in the FCS. He was 25 of 32 field goal attempts on the year, 30 of 31 PATs, and it was a record-setting year for him with 25 field goals, a single season record for New Hampshire. So now SMU has its place kicker for the season. What they can do now here is go out and, maybe with Wiley Olson, have him compete for the starting kickoff job. You could have another leg be brought in for that. There's a lot of different things, but first and foremost, Kyle Cooper and analyst Casey Horney needed to grab a kicker in the portal, and they did that. They moved quickly. They moved swiftly. They got Nick Reed on campus, and he had actually been in the portal for a few weeks. I mean, he was declared to be in the portal, so to speak, for a few weeks. So there was a guy here in Nick Reed that, could have been snatched up by a number of programs, but SMU showed that need, showed that commitment to him, got him on campus, and was able to convince him to come on all the way down to Dallas from New Hampshire. So he was 20 of 24 for field goals from 30 yards or more. And then he was 11 of 12 from 30 to 39. So kind of a weird, and then 3 of 4 from 40 to 49, and then 6 of 8 from 50 plus. So, just has a good bit of, range in his leg. I watched some of his highlights. It's not going to blow you away, but he's making the kicks. So a really, really key addition here with that experience. And he's been through a lot. He's been a D1 kicker before, at the FBS level with Buffalo, and then ends up going to New Hampshire and really bounced back well. So a big deal for SMU to get Nick Reed. That really settles this room down. You have Wade McSparron coming back as a veteran punter now after experiencing his first year at the college level. Morgan Trebet is a really good long snapper that is super experienced now after transferring in before last season. So SMU's addressed its kicker position. We'll see if they add more to that spot for 2026. And then this is where things really started to ramp up here is kicking off this week for SMU. SMU added Florida State tight end transfer Randy Pittman on Sunday. big addition here for the Mustangs. He is a very versatile tight end that comes over from FSU, where he spent one season there after transferring into the Seminoles program from UCF. In 2025, he had 23 receptions for 208 yards, 2 touchdowns in 25. He had at least 2 receptions in 11 of the 12 games played for FSU this season, and he started all 9 games in which he appeared for the Seminoles this fall. So a pretty experienced tight end that brings 1 year of eligibility remaining into the program. So this is kind of exactly what you want between Randy Pittman and Theo Mellon-Orstrom, where they can then give way next year in 27 to that up-and-coming class that SMU signed and their new addition to the tight end room as well. Spent 2 seasons at UCF and did a little bit of everything. He had some carries for FSU as well. So kind of a weird, jumbo tight end, but you're probably a little bit more of the RJ Maryland mold here, whereas Theo Mellon-Orstrom is probably more of the Matthew Hibner role. But nonetheless, SMU is really excited about Randy Pittman. I can tell you that much. As far as who they wanted to go out and grab, he was right up at the top of the list. He had Auburn, South Carolina, and a couple others involved with his recruitment as well. So they get him and went out over the SEC, which is a good deal. And now you have a tight end room that I think from a health, versatility, and athleticism perspective is in really good shape come 2026 for the SMU Mustangs. And they'll be playing under Riley Dodge, new tight ends coach, pass game coordinator, who will get his first shot at showing what he can do with this unit. And he went out and we'll touch on this at the end of the podcast, but a third tight end was signed by SMU, kind of out of nowhere in a sense, but it makes a lot of sense. Texas Tech tight end transfer Trey Jackson has signed with SMU. He's the third tight end in this transfer portal class. A former Dallas South Oak Cliff Golden Bear comes back to Dallas after 3 seasons with the Red Raiders. He will actually have 3 years of eligibility remaining at SMU. He did not have a reception during his Texas Tech career, played 58 snaps on offense, played 89 on special teams, and he spent 2 years at Texas Tech. And he actually was kind of a late riser, a kind of freakish late addition to SOC for that team. And it came in and won a state championship and was a part of, that continued dynasty now at South Oak Cliff. So big literal addition for this tight end room that gets a kind of a jump ball freak of nature winner, about 6'5", 210, 240. That's somewhere in that range now that he's been in college. It's being added to this room for SMU, and they'll look to get his career, off to a really nice trajectory now that he's back in his hometown of Dallas. SMU added safeties coach Kyle Ward to the mix. It's maybe not his official title. We'll see what that ends up being, but Kyle Ward, a former South Oak Cliff Golden Bear defensive coordinator, regarded as one of the top minds in DFW and the state of Texas. He coordinated that dominant South Oak Cliff defense that has led them to all these state championships. Obviously worked with Kevin Jennings, who's quarterback at SOC when they won that first state championship to send them on this run. This is a massive pickup for SMU as far as continuing to add to that commitment to Dallas, commitment to keeping the top talent home, commitment to bringing top talent back to Dallas. This was a big deal for Kyle Ward to finally make the jump to the college ranks. He's had multiple opportunities. This has been a long time coming for SMU to win out in his services. When you think about what he brings to the table, he brings such a I think really polished mentality to this defensive backfield that will really work well with Ricky Hunley and Scott Simons. When you think about who he's produced from his secondary at South Oak Cliff, numerous D1 prospects, and that is going to really bring a lot of legitimacy to any dealings that he has with these SMU Mustangs. This isn't, a high school head coach coming into this SMU program that kind of brings a little bit more notoriety in a sense. But man, I could not, if I had to pick out a high school area coach to come into this program, Kyle Ward would have been in that top 3 conversation right off the bat. And that's just a credit to what he's built, his reputation. I think just how he goes about his business is so awesome. And so this is a big, big deal for SMU. This is not going to get enough buzz in a sense, but they certainly made a big move here, getting him into the program and getting him to come to Dallas, or I should say, come up to University Park, because he's been wanted by numerous programs over the last several years, trying to get him to make the jump to the college ranks. And SMU is the one that gets to bring him into the program. So huge, huge deal to get Kyle Ward, and SMU couldn't have made a better call there. Speaking of making a great call, make sure you guys reach out to our friends at Status Jet. We talked about them earlier, but also the LaLa Land Foundation is a great way to kick off your 2026 by getting involved on the charitable side of things. Go to lalalandfoundation.com for more information on how you can get involved. If you've never been to a LaLa Land Kind Cafe, find one, walk in there, experience it. That will give you the idea of why we're so high on our friends at LaLa Land and working with them, because they bring kindness to everything that they do. So really excited about our partnership with them. And when you're sitting there and you're getting ready to go into the business world, like LaLa Land is helping these youth transition into adulthood, there's so many ways that you could support. So of course, you got to look good. And I would encourage you guys to check out our friends at Horn Legend. Great opportunity here for you to revamp your wardrobe. And honestly, if you want to help out people that are in need, you could certainly even donate some Horn Legend. It would be pricey. It would be quite the move. But Horn Legend with our code PONY gets you free shipping. So check out their sports shirts. My wife and I, Michelle, just got their jackets that are just awesome, especially if it's going to be cold anytime soon here in Dallas. They bring it, though, with these sports shirts that look great underneath those jackets. And you can do the button down or the hidden button like I like. Tremendous gear from our friends at Horn Legend. That's HORN legend.com. Get free shipping with code PONY. So we appreciate our friends at Horn Legend for supporting the pod and everything we do. So as we continue on kind of the back half of this transfer portal breakdown here now, SMU wasn't done adding skill positions into this roster. And this is one that I got wind of really late last week and was kind of waiting on over the course of the weekend. And it finally broke Sunday morning when Jalen Hale, former 4-star prospect out of Longview, Texas, who spent the past 3 seasons of college football with the Alabama Crimson Tide, has committed to SMU and signed with the Mustangs. He could have 3 years of eligibility remaining, depending on how some injury things work out. But he did return to action this fall in 2025. He saw some time in some games, primarily on special teams. He had a bad knee injury in 2024, that spring, that ended his entire 2024 season. But man, this is somebody that from a person standpoint, from a leadership perspective, Alabama did not want to lose. And this coming spring, he's going to be 2 years removed from this injury. There's kind of a lot of quiet optimism around adding Jalen Hale, who as a freshman in 2023 grabbed 5 passes for 148 yards and a touchdown. His touchdown came against Ole Miss. He was really starting to total a lot of snaps at that wide receiver position. And that was as a true freshman at Alabama. So there was a lot of buzz around him, and he unfortunately gets hurt that spring 2024, and it kind of derailed things. Alabama still brought in a lot of talent, and Jalen Hale, just looking for a fresh start, gets back to Texas and commits to SMU. Talking with some sources around the program, 6'1", 197 pounds. He did get back on the field this year for 2025, so this isn't a complete flyer. This is somebody that they like the way he looks physically, and there is a lot of kind of cautious optimism that you stick him in this room that now has Yannick Smith and some of that really, really nice talent coming up from the high school recruiting classes. He could be really good and really make this wide receiver group kind of that next level if he hits. So lots of excitement around Jalen Hale, what he brings to the Mustangs, and kind of getting to text with him a little bit. Somebody who's ready to work and ready to get after it for these SMU Mustangs and work with Kevin Jennings. And that is something that, Rob Likens really coveted when kind of looking at this is, how can we add someone who I think would bring some sort of, upside that wouldn't necessarily run off what they have going on with some of these young wide receivers. Because trust me, these young wide receivers are going to be really good. But if you're looking for kind of a trade for trade here, you think of Dylan Goffney that they brought in last year. Didn't end up really getting much burn in the offense. Jalen Hale physically looks the part, can definitely play on special teams, can really, find his footing with Kevin Jennings and then maybe break out. That would be a best of both worlds for SMU. And so that was something that came together over the course of, the last week or so and really got worked together. And, SMU took advantage of the situation, was able to add him into the fold. So really nice roster move there to bring in a Jalen Hale and add him into the fold. So terrific work there by the staff to get that one done. You strengthen some ties in East Texas as well. And that's always a good thing. There's a lot of people that had a lot of good things to say about Jalen Hale and bringing him in to the program. So big move there by SMU. And we're excited to watch that one unfold. I've heard some really good things about him. Speaking of good things about someone, SMU fans would not have liked this one just right off the bat. But now that there's some time that is separated between the moments between Cal and SMU, maybe they'll like this one a little bit more. SMU added Cal transfer running back Kendrick Raphael into their running back room, bringing a nearly 1,000-yard running back to the Mustangs for the 2026 season. This really rounds out this room in such a terrific way. He was the ACC leader in carries last year with 232 carries, and now also adding 245 yards on 34 receptions into this backfield. A terrific move by SMU to kind of fill that TJ Harden type of role and allow that young running back room to kind of battle itself out. D'Amico Green, Derek McFall in the slot. There's all sorts of different ways that this running back room can emerge and be used this year. Well, now Kyle Cooper has a workhorse running back that's proven in the ACC to bring into this room. So terrific move for the Naples, Florida native to get to SMU for his final year of eligibility. And now the Mustangs can get to work with him. And this was a hard-fought battle, so the Mustangs got this one done and were able to beat out Ole Miss, Tennessee, and others for Kendrick Raphael. When you try to dig down into his career, 2 years at NC State, where he started out right away playing as a true freshman, was able to have another strong-ish season as a sophomore, and then Hollywood Smothers kind of emerges and things like that. And you see him transfer to Cal. He goes coast to coast. Now he lands back in the middle for his final year. When Kyle Cooper was looking at this room, you had guys like Caden Durham in the transfer portal. You had Damari Alston in the transfer portal, Duke Watson in the transfer portal. And so here's kind of the wild world of the transfer portal. And, there were all sorts of rumors around Trey Wisner, CJ Baxter from Texas early on. I never heard that being a real thing. But this is a staff that covers their bases. This is a staff that takes care of all of the things that you'd want to see a staff take care of in terms of research, in terms of diving into the best available players. And they found that Kendrick Raphael was an option, was available, and they quickly kind of made their move. You could have seen them go more all out for a Caden Durham. And Caden Durham was somebody for the last 2 years I've heard the noise that he might come home. For the last 2 years, we've heard it. And he ends up just sticking with LSU once again, because I think in part he found out that the market wasn't what he thought it would be. And I'm not slighting Caden Durham. I think that's honestly maybe even more of an agent thing for him. But when you see what SMU was able to get in a Kendrick Raphael, this is the piece of the puzzle where these SMU coaches do a good job of finding the guys that might very well be the right fit and have that experience that you'd want in the running back room and other rooms. This is a prime example of this. He's not going to upset the waters. He's going to come in, he's going to go to work. And SMU has a veteran running back that's proven for this final season with Kevin Jennings. So really key pickup here. Great work by Kyle Cooper in the last week to juggle that Nick Reed recruitment, to juggle Kendrick Raphael and kind of the moving parts around that, because they could have had Duke Watson. They could have had Damari Alston. And if they really wanted to pay an ungodly amount of money to pull Caden Durham from LSU, they probably could have. But I think they got the better back who's got more proven production on the field. Caden Durham, as much of a great story as it'd be coming back home to Duncanville area in Dallas and playing for SMU, he's just not been healthy. He's not been able to produce at the level you would have thought coming out of high school. Maybe he does that this year, and I hope he does at LSU, because love Caden Durham, covered him as a high school player in his recruitment. But Kendrick Raphael is the more proven one, who got nearly to 1,000 yards behind that Cal offensive line that was not very good running the football. So terrific job by SMU in that regard, getting Kendrick Raphael on board for this 2026 season. SMU wasn't done on Monday, though. It was a busy day. I was hoping to do this with you guys that day, but the news just kept on rolling, and then I was waiting for one more, and we're down to our final two. But speaking of final, make sure you guys get our friends at Socorro Tequila to hook you up with free shipping. When you order 3 bottles or more off their website, that's what you get, is free shipping from our friends at Socorro Tequila. So make sure you guys go on their website, shop their entire selection of tequila, their award-winning tequila. You can get the Socorro Tequila Trio for $113 delivered right to your front door. And do they still have it? The Añejo 5-year reserve? They do. So make sure you pick up a bottle of that Socorro Tequila 5-year extra Añejo, the Reserva de Pablo. Beautiful special bottle there for you guys to try. Chime in the comments if you've tried it before. But our friends at Socorro are hooking it up for you guys with that type of incredible tequila. And I tell you what, guys, was texting with our friends at Los Charros. Guess what? The smoker is activated on site at Socorro or at Los Charros, and that whole team is bringing it for the start of 2026 with the smoker on site. So looking forward to partnering with them on some events to kick that off. We'll be getting closer to doing some of that here very soon. But let me tell you this, if you mention on the Pony Express at Socorro, if you mention on the Pony Express at Los Charros, you'll get a free bowl of queso when you come in. So visit Los Charros. It's at the Graduate Hotel right there on Hillcrest. Mention on the Pony Express that you listen to the podcast with Billy Embody, Hayden Howerton, Dean Rawlsky, the whole crew, and you'll get a free bowl of queso. And when you do, make sure you order some Socorro with our friends over there at Los Charros. So a great combo there, Socorro and Los Charros. Really looking forward to that on Saturday, maybe right after SMU takes on Virginia. As Bill Armstrong likes to say, in victory, we deserve it. In defeat, we need it. And maybe SMU will deserve it on Saturday. Some Socorro, one might say, with a win over Virginia if they can wrangle that. So for the Wednesday night game, if you're catching this before SMU takes on Virginia Tech, get there at Los Charros before the game. So I don't think they'll stay open late enough by the time you get out of Moody at 10:15, 10:30 or so. So check them out, our friends at Los Charros, Tex-Mex Smokehouse, and Socorro. SMU, though, wasn't done in the transfer portal. Like I was saying, we know that Tyler Thompson, the North Carolina defensive end, did commit elsewhere. We know he ended up at Louisville, a big price tag, a 7-figure price tag, we're told. That SMU was at that type of a price tag at 7 figures. But he ends up going to Louisville. So SMU will face him in the ACC this season. They did address the edge position. And here's where it gets interesting. UMass edge, Marquise White, is somebody that SMU looked at last transfer portal cycle out of McNeese. He ends up going to UMass, where he plays out this season and has 50 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 2 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles. Really good guy at getting pressure. Against Iowa and Missouri, he had a really good stat line, 10 tackles, 3 tackles for loss. Before he played at McNeese in 2024, he played 4 seasons at Dartmouth as well, a really bright young man who's now going to be 25 years old coming into this SMU program. And they get him for this final year, and they get an older veteran defensive end who they can rotate with this group that they've assembled at the bandit position. A critical piece of this is depth. You have age here, you have experience, but SMU needs, with Akil Washington coming off injury and Ira Singleton stepping up from USF to SMU, they wanted 3. And really, they wanted a difference maker. There's no other way to explain this. They wanted a Tyler Thompson who's got proven ACC type of production. But guess what? They missed out. It happens in the transfer portal. What did they do? They quickly pivoted to a guy that they knew and they felt like would bring some maturity and some experience to this room, Marquise White. And each time he's kind of transferred now, he's kind of bettered his situation, right? Maybe this is the time that he really blows up and becomes kind of a fan favorite. Just kind of looking through his bio, he's somebody that has won an award at Dartmouth. He won the Lester R. Goodwin Award for the senior who, through extraordinary perseverance, has risen above personal disadvantage to contribute measurably to the team. So former Brophy Prep high school grad, for those of you guys who listen from the Arizona area, well-known high school in Arizona, all the way back when he came out of high school, which is, almost 7 years ago now. But this is a veteran guy. They hope that this will be kind of a perfect storm of rotation and guys playing fresh and things like that off this edge position for SMU. So he's not going to get a ton of fanfare, but this is one that, SMU is trying to avoid some of the, okay, just grab former highly touted guy. Just grab him, just bring him in. I think they kind of ran into that with DJ Warner. They thought it'd work out a little bit better. It did not. So what did they want to do? And people who are watching Indiana, they know exactly what I'm talking about. They wanted to grab a 1-year guy who's old as dirt in today's college football day and age. They did that with Marquise White. Now you can factor in some of these freshmen maybe too. Maybe a Hudson Woods, maybe a Montre Harris gets hot in the spring and or fall camp and can bring it. Maybe you have a 4-man rotation. Maybe you do a bunch of different things up front and you're able to improve your pass rush by creating different mismatches. And that's something that SMU, with the bandit spot this year, I think they didn't have enough consistency from the room that they had, let alone missing Akil Washington. And so they go out and they grab Marquise White. We'll see how it goes. But 25-year-old man coming into the program who's now played 2 consecutive years with, a good amount of snaps under his belt, trending in the right direction there. That's kind of sleeper pick of the transfer class right now. SMU did complete the trade with Clemson. Chris Johnson Jr. heads to the Tigers, and coming back is linebacker Jamal Anderson, son of former All-Pro running back and Atlanta Falcon Jamal Anderson, is now a Mustang. He has 2 years of eligibility left. The 6'3", 225-pounder, redshirted this year for Clemson, playing in the first 4 games. He was really a special teamer. He played 48 snaps this season. He did have a start under his belt, and during his career with the Tigers, was able to make 16 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and a sack over 31 games. So he brings experience. He's from a high school that is a powerhouse in Mill Creek in Georgia. And SMU gets somebody who has ACC experience. When you have Caden Marshall coming into the room with what SMU has coming back with Alexander Kilgore, Brandon Booker, Brandon Maizono, really nice situation now for SMU. And they will have, between Jamal Anderson and a Brandon Booker and a Caden Marshall, guys with experience coming back for the 2027 season as well. So kind of a chess piece here as far as depth that SMU has added. He's going to play on special teams right away. And maybe he gets into this defense and he's far more comfortable. And Maurice Crum, who's done a great job developing this room, gets the most out of him. And SMU is able to make some moves with Jamal Anderson on this team, and they're able to get the most out of him. That could be something that would be a lot of fun to watch if you're an SMU fan. Some of these guys that maybe don't come in with as much buzz around them, they've got to pan out in this transfer class. There's no doubt about that. So we'll be watching that very closely. Speaking of watching closely, I do want you guys to continue to watch the Thomas Auto Group. Whether it's pre-owned or new vehicles, head up 75 to McKinney, visit any of their 4 dealerships, Ford, Subaru, Volkswagen, and Mitsubishi, and check out why they call it the Thomas Promise. Today, mention On the Pony Express and get employee pricing on new and pre-owned vehicles at the Thomas Auto Group. So visit thethomasuutogroup.com for more on that today.
At Thomas Auto Group, the Thomas Promise includes the low price promise,
the pre-owned promise,
and the 72-hour exchange promise.
And finally, the 100% customer satisfaction promise. So shop Thomas Auto Group today, home of the Thomas Promise.
Wrapping up here on the Pony Express podcast, quick thing just came across the ticker here. 2026 men's basketball transfer portal will open April 7th through April 21st. Women's basketball, April 6th through April 20th. That is right after those national championship games. So keep a close eye on that and, file that away for you guys. We'll be covering the transfer portal here once again with SMU basketball in really big need of a couple of key pieces after this season, especially at the point guard position for Andy Enfield and co. But look, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. We will go more in depth for you guys here very soon. Hoping you guys are enjoying all the podcasts we're putting out and the coverage at ontheponyexpress.com. The transfer portal is nearly done as far as guys entering, and we'll be watching it very closely to see who, in fact, if there are any others that may enter from SMU as well. So none that we're hearing about right now, but a couple more days left in the transfer portal and a lot to watch as SMU looks to round out this roster with a couple of key pieces. We'll have you covered at ontheponyexpress.com. So we appreciate all of you guys for watching, listening, and supporting our sponsors as well for us here at On the Pony Express. I'm Billy Embody. We'll catch you next time on another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU3 and on Instagram at On3SMU. And keep it locked to ontheponyexpress.com for more coverage.